pretty good with its rules. Well, it's touch and go sometimes.
Yeah, we all saw the annual.
Yeah, so but GW focuses on lots of rules. We'll put it that way, and for the most part, they work well with the game, with some disputes here and there. But one thing that they don't focus on quite at all, honestly, is rules for terrain placement.
No, if you look through the standard missions, they've got maybe suggested terrain placement, but unlike Warcry, where they gave it a lot of love and had prescribed terrain placements.
Yeah, there's like specific cards that you draw at random, and it shows you how to place the terrain on the board, so that way you don't have to do any thinking of that part.
Not at all. But no, nothing like that exists for Kill Team at the moment, at least.
Yeah, the books and special boxes do have cards that have missions, and on the missions are suggested terrain that you can place in a specific way, obviously catering to the terrain that they sell.
Yeah.
They're making money in this business, so you can't fault them for that. But honestly, that the suggested terrain on those cards isn't the best.
No,
at
it's
least from
not.
a competitive standpoint or a fun standpoint at that matter.
Yeah, all those boxes, all those cards, when you look at them, they are, as they should be, promotional material. They are boxes that you look at and you go, ooh, that's pretty, I want to buy it.
Yeah.
And so we do. Because we all have piles of plastic if you're watching this video.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But the difference here is that these beautiful pictures are not necessarily good for a game.
Yeah, they don't.
And we'll give you a good rundown of this right now, because we've played games where we've made our own custom maps before and set up the board and got, oh man, this is pretty. Yeah. And then we start playing and realize that it was not a good experience.
Great segue, Alex.
Huh, how about that?
We have one of those boards here for you today. So, I had bought a bunch of stuff from TinkerTurf. I like the idea of having relatively durable, but also pre-colored, it's not painted, but pre-colored terrain, easy to transport and fairly modular, so that way you can get very creative with it. I really like that. I really wanted to be creative with setup to give us more versatility to the game. And a couple weeks ago at our local game shop, Darkside Games, Alex and I met up just to play a few games and just kind of take this new terrain out for its paces. And as you can see, it's really cool. This is the first board we played with, and we were so proud of it. I posted this to my Insta and got a ton of responses to it. It looks like a really cool setup, and we were pretty proud of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. Emmanuel started setting it up while I was having a chat with someone else, and I turned around and helped him finish it up. We knew that we were going to be deploying on the long edges of the board.
Yeah.
And so hence the sort of layout. It was, just enough asymmetry to be interesting, but overall a symmetrical board. No one's going to have any advantage based off the deployment zone you pick.
Yeah, symmetry. Yeah. So symmetrical, but we're going to cut away to a different view right now.
So just to give some example, I'll throw a couple of my models on the board right now, sort of, ballpark how things were. Grab a couple of Emmanuels as well and throw them on here. And you'll see the problem that occurred to us as we started to play this game. This half of the board, I'm not sure which camera angle you guys are looking at right now, turns into a shooting gallery for me.
Yeah, it's honestly more than half of the board.
Right. And so this beautiful, beautiful terrain we built all of a sudden just swung the game hard in my favor when we actually started playing. And we actually didn't end up finishing this game. Emmanuel conceded about halfway through turn 2.
Yeah. Honestly, the game was decided at the end of movement phase in round 1. Irrespective of who won initiative, usually whoever loses initiative wins round 1 for most matchups. But irrespective of that, when you're going shooty versus melee and with so many open firing lines, there's not much you can do. There's not much cover. You can get obscurity, but Alex's AdMech don't care about that. And we'll just set up. We'll give you some examples here. So. Setting up some of the models, kind of more or less where I remember from a couple weeks ago them being, you can see how, despite best efforts of getting, I didn't have Christmas Gobbo on the field, but I'm too happy not to field him right now. I would not have put a boy up there on the box. What are you doing, Alex? That's where you want to see him.
Yeah, I know. It's wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, I mean, more or less just kind of in and around these kind of areas. Um, yeah, that's
and then
close enough.
Butch and Sundance were chilling over there.
And grot hiding as a grot does right back here. And you can easily see, and I'm gonna take some views from the more important angle, which is gonna be over here with Shooty Boys. You can see quite easily that it is hard to hide anyone behind anything. Everyone's fairly visible. I don't think I moved that guy where he was. Try to come up around the top, and you can even see through. I don't know if I can make it that obvious here. Try and change the focus. Trust me, there's a boy over there that you could shoot. When I was initially deploying, and also to give perspective, objectives were in 5 points on the middle and 1 in each quadrant for the mission that we were playing. I forget which one it was, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Let's give him some cover. I feel bad leaving him in the open. My poor mushrooms. With deployment on this long edge, this is a lot tastier for a melee army to try and swoop around from more complete obscurity. But so much the board was so open, even though this huge kind of platform system looked so cool, there's nothing that I can do about it. So at the end of movement phase, or even before shooting started, I just knew that it was a done deal for Alex because of the terrain.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think enough on this one.
Yeah.
So what we'll show you next is where we took the same exact terrain, learned from our mistakes, and built up another game that ended up having beautiful, wonderful terrain on it using the exact same pieces, and was just a good, much better setup all around.
Yeah. Yeah, because just to reiterate, I mean, it was obvious I had no fun in that game.
Yes.
But you told me yourself, and I'll let you say it yourself. Did you have fun?
No, not so much. Like, it was...
Even with a decisive victory?
No, it was a decisive victory for me. But, I mean, we're playing a game, and when I play a game, I want to have a game where it's hard fought, the winner is not decided from the get-go, and we have to work. We have to work for it, and I didn't have to work for it. I pointed AdMech at things, and I pointed AdMech and orcs got deleted.
I mean, you placed AdMech on board, and orcs got deleted in this map.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna cut away to what we put together for our second game. So this is not a game that Alex and I played against. Alex, you were playing against Will from Knight's Cast for the second game. I had no idea where I was or who I was playing against, but that's neither here nor there. And you decided to take a different approach to reconfiguring around the TinkerTurf terrain. Actually, I think the approach you took was specifically influenced by the whole concept of building out the open boards from SCO that Sheldon had proposed.
Yeah, we were inspired a little by that, and also from the mistakes of the immediately preceding game. And so I think you helped us set this train up unfairly.
I might have.
But so we started with
the whole leaning container thing is my brand.
That's the E-Man special. So we started with this in the center. And what this does is it breaks the board up. You've got something big in the middle. It's interesting to look at still, with leaning containers and
That's right.
some little borders there. But it blocks the table, and so you've got edges where you can see things, but overall you're not going to have any point that just dominates the field visually or from a vantage point anymore. And which is interesting.
And I'm just going to switch over to a different angle right now so you can see how that translates while Alex keeps talking.
Yeah, so if you look underneath these walkways now, there's no real shooting gallery anymore.
There's definitely firing lines still, and that's the important thing to make. You don't want to just make a big, easy to charge through area, otherwise then the game's no fun for you either.
And one of the interesting things about this map is, I'm just looking at it right now, technically this map is less symmetric than the one that you and I played on.
Right.
So if you're thinking, the symmetric map is what means fair and competitive play, that's not necessarily true. There's, we've got this mountain or hill of sorts in the middle. We've got walkways on either side. But the two walkways and the two diagonal sections of the board both look very different. One side's got a much bigger catwalk, one's got a catwalk that's much higher.
And one thing that we redid just to include an example from your game is that you can see the red gobbo over in the far distance over here.
And if you look over here, this is Butch and Sundance, my Plasma and Comspecs combo.
And then that's easily the hardest orc body that I have to hide. But with clever use of terrain,
there's no shot there.
And that's what really enables really good terrain to allow really interesting and clever uses that can help you at the same time as hurting the other player, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So the big question is, what's the best way to emulate a fair, well, not fair, but at least more intriguing?
No,
and
fair
more
is. I think fair is the right word,
Fair is
because fair is fair. But
Yep.
in a game where you're not playing the same faction against each other, fair means that both teams have an equal chance of success based off of the terrain alone.
Yeah, and I think fun is equally as important because, well, let's boil it down to the two main things that you need to consider when building out the terrain. Firing lines for your shooting armies, and obscurity for your melee armies. And for your mixed armies, you're going to want a little bit of both. Now, I'm going to love the obscurity, but I'm also going to have fun with the firing lines when you think about it, because if I have a balance of both here, I get to have fun with finding those approaches, finding the safe avenues, finding the threatening avenues, and putting my mushrooms in places where I can get them to you while keeping them safe.
Exactly. So it would be like the inverse of the first map we discussed.
Right.
Where I had the free firing lanes, it wasn't fun for me because
You didn't have to think.
I didn't have to think.
Yeah.
Now, if we put basically a checkerboard of infinitely tall terrain where it's impossible to see more than 2 inches in front of you, you would have a field day with me.
You mean like Arena?
Like Arena, yeah. You'd have a field day with me.
Right.
But even in Arena is great because
It's got a balance of both.
It's got a balance of both.
Yeah.
I can find long hallways where I can light you up coming in, but you can also find little nooks and crannies to hide where I can't find you.
And you know why I like the open boards more than Arena? There's one perfect example of why I like it.
They're prettier?
No. This right here. This
Across
example
the
that we
table
showed
shot.
off. No, but more than the fact that we got to be clever, right?
Mhm.
We get the opportunity to be clever and surprise our opponent. Because if this is a solid wall, yeah, of course it's going to block you. But if I'm able to see a vantage point where I can hide this lovely star that's waiting to lead to this model finding an early grave, if I'm able to find a way to surprise you and use this 3D terrain, then I immediately have the upper hand, and that rewards that. It rewards a player that can see that perspective, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy that surprise and that challenge. So I think the steps that you can take to best emulate a board like this is honestly look at the SEO packet. I would honestly look at the SEO packet as far as building up the terrain, at specifically the rules for building up terrain. Now that wasn't used at SEO just due to time constraints, but the number one thing from that is start with something large in the middle that causes obscurity, and then just build out from that. And as you're placing stuff, take into consideration obscurity as well as avenues. Make sure that you're down at the level, looking here, and you're going to see the top of my head, but looking through here to make sure that you can see those avenues, as well as making sure that you can't. And both players shuffling stuff around until everyone is happy. Going into it, not looking for your advantage, but looking for a table that's going to give both players an advantage and disadvantage, because that's what makes this game fun.
Yeah, and even I think it's a saying from politics that a good compromise leaves everyone a little unhappy. So, maybe you build the board and shuffle it around with your opponent until everyone's just a little like, I wish it could just be just a little bit different. And you know what? If you're looking at a board and you see things that you can make work for you, but at the same time you're going, I'm going to really have to work hard for it. And if both players are looking at it and thinking that, that's a game board that's going to make you both better players by the time that game is over.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Titrate to dissatisfaction. Just enough.
Nerd.